Hi everyone, my name is Colleen Drosdeck. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and today I'm here to present a topic about let's go shopping at Costco, a dietitian's healthy tips. So let's get started. So to buy or not to buy, a big question we as consumers should be asking ourselves or do ask ourselves. And before we go to the grocery store, it's always a good idea to make a grocery list, perhaps plan some meals in order to help make that list, and to also ask yourself some questions. And hopefully we can ask these questions before we go to the grocery store. And yeah, we might be asking ourselves these questions while we're shopping as well. And some of those questions might be, what are our health goals? Do I have a plan in place for reaching them? What way of eating will help me to reach these goals? Some other things you might be asking yourself as you plan your grocery list and as well as while you shop are things like, do I want to eat more whole foods and consume less processed foods? Perhaps I'm looking to avoid food allergens or specific ingredients. Or maybe I want to decrease my intake of added sugars. Or maybe consume less refined carbohydrates. And what I mean by refined carbohydrates is perhaps switching our white breads, white pastas, white rices out for 100% whole grain sources instead. Maybe things like brown rice or 100% whole wheat bread, or even eating more carbohydrates like beans or sweet potatoes, anything like that. Or perhaps you want to eat more healthy fats, so avocados, nuts, and seeds, as an example. Consume less sodium, which in general means eating less processed foods. Or increase our intake of quality protein. These are all good things to ask yourself, while you're planning your list and while you're shopping. So the first thing I want to touch on are some top pantry picks. I wanted to start here by saying I highlighted in green what my top picks at Costco would be. And to start, we got some cereals, grains, dried fruit, and legumes. The ones in particular I wanted to point out were some Quaker oats, so old-fashioned Quaker oats. Very versatile. You can make a morning oatmeal with them. You can make grind them into flour and use it for baking. There's so many different things you could do with oats. So a very good one to have in our pantry. Perhaps we like some granolas. But with the granolas, we want to watch that sugar intake as well. So I listed some brands like Autumn's Gold and Purely Elizabeth Coconut Cashew that might be good ones to try. Some other things like the dried fruit, raisins, goji berries, apple chips, banana chips. I know the apple chips and banana chips and raisins and perhaps even the goji berries are good things to add to trail mix. So taking your favorite nuts and mixing them with some of these things can be a really good on-the-go healthy snack or a snack for home. Some different waffle and pancake mixes. One of my favorites, Birch Bender's pancake and waffle mix, and also Kodiak cakes. I think is pretty good as well. I wanted to mention too the chickpea pasta, the Banza rotini pasta. Chickpea pasta is really nice because it's made with chickpea flour, but it's also higher in fiber and protein, which is really good. A good alternative to perhaps regular pasta. So something to try. Nuts and seeds are the next one I wanted to get to. So almond butter, peanut butter, or perhaps you like more of the whole nuts. So some almonds, we got some macadamia nuts in there, the unsalted mixed nuts. And if you like the salted instead, perhaps buying both and mixing them together. So you're getting a little bit less of the salt, but a good taste. And lastly, some almond flour, which really can be good for baking. I know I like to bake muffins a lot of times with almond flour or pancakes. So the Kirkland blanched one is a good one. The chia seeds and hemp hearts. Those are good things you can add to yogurt or oatmeal, perhaps baking certain items too. So again, there's a lot of good healthy choices. Now to the next favorite I know a lot of people like, crackers, chips, and other snack foods. And even though it's not highlighted in green, I do, the Triscuit Originals are definitely a good one. They're 100% whole wheat, so that's a whole grain. The sweet potato crackers, almond flour crackers, and then we got some tortilla chips in there. The Siete grain-free ones are a good choice, or the whole grain popping corn. Popcorn is a whole grain and is a good source of fiber. So definitely you can get some healthier types of chips and snacks in there. And looking for that fiber and the less ingredients on there is a good thing. We got some soups and broths and jarred veggies. That for a canned soup might be a quick type of lunch you can do. And so Amy's Organic is a good one. Then some of the canned protein with the fish. So Wild Alaskan Pink or sockeye salmon is a good choice for that. And the Kirkland brand is a good one. The seasoned brand wild caught sardines. I'm not a huge fan of sardines, but I know people that are, and they certainly have a lot of good healthy properties in them as well. And then we have some Cello Wisps Parmesan cheese crisps. They're basically like little hardened or baked Parmesan cheese crackers. And you can literally take them and just crush them up and put them into a chili or a soup, or perhaps have them even on their own. And they're just made with Parmesan cheese. So that's a nice little snack you can have too. Moon cheese is something I know individuals who like to add it in their trail mix. And then oils, another good thing to have available, because a lot of us do use oils in cooking. So extra virgin olive oil, the Chosen Foods avocado oil, and the coconut oil, the Kirkland coconut oil, are some of my favorites. And I wanted to briefly touch on a guide to cooking with, or our handout here, which is a guide to cooking with fats and oils. This actually will be provided to you as well, so you'll be able to read it also. But I wanted to touch on a few points on here, and really talk about the types of oils. I basically mentioned them before, but the ones that I have in my kitchen that I find very useful. And the most important thing to understand about oils is some are better for a higher heat, while others are better for no or low heat. And when we talk about that, we're really talking about an oil's smoke point. So the smoke point is the temperature at which an oil can be burned or damaged. So if we look here, they listed various smoke points. And like I said, some of my favorite oils, avocado oil being one of them, it's a high heat oil, which is really nice, if you're using a wok or if you're grilling. I love to use my Chosen Foods avocado oil for that. Ghee is another one that I use for some higher heat cooking as well. It's a clarified butter. Also coconut oil, I like to use for baking typically. And then we have extra virgin olive oil for more of a light saute, or I'm even making salad dressings. That's a really good one too. And then lastly, I also like some sesame oil, which typically I have I think mine is cold pressed. So I only use it for after cooking. So something like edamame, which I might just boil for 3, I have frozen edamame, boil it for 3 minutes, toss it in some sesame oil with some sea salt, and it's delicious. The next thing I wanted to mention on this handout as well is some of the other oils that are more heavily processed. And when they're heavily processed, they tend to have less health benefit to them. They may also be higher in omega-6s, which when we have too much omega-6 in our diet, that can actually increase inflammation in the body. And we already get a lot of omega-6 if we eat more processed foods. So in general, I do recommend people, consume or be aware that oils like canola, sunflower, safflower, soybean, and corn, are typically, better to not overdo and kind of go towards some of those other ones that I mentioned. And so just keeping that in mind when you're thinking about oils and the types that you use and you cook with. I also wanted to touch on what the description might mean when you're buying an oil. And there's three in particular. So refined oils, unrefined oils, and cold pressed oils. And again, it's all listed on this handout here. But a refined oil is an oil that's extracted and treated with heat or chemicals. And when we do that, it actually takes away the beneficial properties of the oils. So even though an unrefined oil, or I should say a refined oil, is more stable with cooking, like higher heat cooking, it just might have less beneficial properties. So I believe the avocado oil that I use is more refined. However, it's not, chemicals are not used to extract the oil. So that's a good thing. But again, it's better for some higher heat cooking. So, there's reasons to use some refined oils and unrefined oils as well. And unrefined oils are not treated with chemicals or heat. These oils have more minerals, enzymes, vitamins, and phytonutrients within, rather than unlike the unrefined or than the refined oils. And examples of unrefined oils which have all those nutrients are virgin and extra virgin oils. So olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. I've seen extra virgin and virgin coconut oil as well. And lastly, just wanted to touch on the cold pressed oils, which are extracted using pressure rather than heat or chemicals. So again, they have those nutritional benefits much more so than the refined, which are basically stripped of their the beneficial properties. So I hope you find this handout helpful. Next, to continue with some pantry picks, I have some sweeteners listed like stevia, monk fruit sweetener, which are some non-nutritive sweeteners, and then maple syrup, which can be a good sweetener as well. And then we have cacao powder and vanilla extract, which we can use in baking. And you get a nice size bag of the cacao, and that's actually full of antioxidants as well. Condiments and sauces, so the chosen foods, mayo, which is actually made with avocado oil. So I tend to use that mayo in particular. The cocoa aminos, that can be used instead of a soy sauce if you have an allergy to soy. And then I wanted to also touch on some protein bars, shakes, and powders. Many times I find people do go to these things as like a quicker, easier type of snack food. So I think it's good to be aware of, which ones might be better or maybe not as good to have. And so some of my top picks are the Rise Almond Honey Protein Bar, which I kind of find, hit or miss at Costco. Or in the RX bars, I usually always see peanut butter and chocolate sea salt bars. So those are really good too, good quality ingredients in those bars as well. And then I wanted to also mention the protein powder, the Vital Proteins Collagen Peptides, unflavored powder. That's probably my top protein powder at Costco that I've found. And I'm actually going to talk briefly about protein powders here in a minute. But that's definitely the one that I would prefer over some of the other ones there. Seed and granola bars are another good thing. The more seeds we have in our diet, the more healthy fats we can have in our diet and fiber. So definitely the Health Warrior Pumpkin Seed Bar and Autumn's Gold Grain Free Granola Bar are two good choices to have there. So protein bars, powders, and drinks, what to know before you buy. So I wanted to mention that there was a 2018 study done by the Clean Label Project. And the Clean Label Project is a nonprofit that focuses on health and transparency in consumer product labeling. And they did a study that reported concerning levels of heavy metals, pesticides, BPA, and other contaminants in popular protein powders and drinks. They tested 134 products, and many contained detectable levels of at least one heavy metal, and just over half tested positive for BPA. And I think an important thing to remember is they actually tested single servings of these products. So a single serving would be perhaps a scoop or two. which is what a consumer would likely be having in their smoothie or whatever they're making. And what they found is that products with plant proteins like soy or hemp fared much worse than whey or egg-based products. Organic products on average had over 2 times the amount of heavy metals, and 75% of plant-based powders and drinks tested positive for lead. So this is very interesting and very important to understand that the regulation of these products isn't as intense as our general food supply. And I'm going to get into that here in a few minutes. But just to understand that, it's important to know what is in your protein powders and drinks. And and if you want to read more about this, you can go to the Consumer Reports article, the link I listed there. And you can also check out the cleanlabelproject.org protein powder and take a look at the study that they did. So the Clean Label Project also listed the top 5 products and the top bottom, or I should say the bottom 5 products that they found once they tested for the heavy metals and the various contaminants within the powders. And what they found, and if you see here at the top 5 products, a lot of them are vanilla and whey protein based. And then if you look at the bottom 5, there is a vanilla in there. There's 2 vanillas, but I also see more chocolate overall than vanilla. So 3 chocolates and 2 vanillas. And so, and I also will say, I don't know if many of these are actually found in Costco, but what I will say is the Biochem vanilla 100% whey protein is one that I personally had used in the past that was quite good. So again, whatever protein powder you're using or you might want to use, you can check it. Actually, they have a resource on the at cleanlabelproject.org, and you can type it in and see if they've actually tested it. And I just wanted to mention a few words on soy protein isolate. So it is a highly processed type of protein that is actually a lot of processed foods that I typically have seen it in a lot of processed foods. So it is highly processed protein, as I said. It's cheap, which is probably why we see it more so. It likely contains GMOs if it's not organic. It may also be higher in heavy metals and other contaminants compared to animal protein sources. It is also a common food allergy. Some people may be intolerant to soy, so that's good to remember if you are. Those with autoimmune conditions may want to avoid as well. It contains phytates, which can decrease mineral absorption. And as I mentioned, the food supply is already inundated with processed soy. So again, if we're going out to get a protein powder, don't really recommend going for the soy protein isolate, just because we already pretty much, if you eat a diet that's higher in processed foods, you're probably eating more of this than you think. It also lacks the healthful properties of traditional soy. So traditional soy being things like tempeh, tofu, miso, those are all, edamame, all different beneficial types of soy, so more health benefits and not highly processed. So my recommendations overall, before you go out and get a protein powder or drink, use the Clean Label Project. Check your protein powder before you go. Focus on the ingredients list. Not too many ingredients is always a good rule of thumb for most things. Unless you can, unless it's like almonds with some coconut and maybe some chia seed and, a little bit of maple syrup, all things we, know to be good and good whole food. Usually, like I said, the less is better with ingredients and being able to understand them. And so I have an asterisk there because the one thing I do want you to understand is that certain products are fortified with vitamins and or minerals, and the actual words, not the vitamin B6, but the actual, or B1, but the actual word that it is, it may be unfamiliar to you, but it's not a cause of concern. And like as I have listed on the bottom of the screen, some examples include peroxidine hydrochloride, which is vitamin B6, and thiamine mononitrate, which is vitamin B1. So again, being aware that you might not recognize those words, but they're not a cause of concern. Next, the sugar content should be little to none in your protein powder. There's no reason to be adding sugar to protein powder. We're using it for the protein, not the sugar. And being mindful of gums and sugar alcohols if you have digestive issues. So gums like guar gum, some people might not tolerate well, or sugar alcohols like xylitol that might not be tolerated well. So again, it just depends on you personally, but just being aware of that. And also, instead of using protein powders, you could try to add 1 or 2 of the following to smoothies. So cottage cheese and plain Greek yogurt are actually 2 of my favorite. Cottage cheese sounds weird to add, but it has a little bit of salt. It has some salt in it, but it makes it very creamy. So again, it's not as odd as you may think. And it's a great source of protein, as is plain Greek yogurt too. Great source of protein. Hemp seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, these all add good fats, a little bit of protein, and good amounts of fiber, which is awesome. So again, definitely something good to add to smoothies as well, to boost a little bit of that protein and healthy fat as well. And nut butters, good fiber, healthy fat, some protein in there too, and silken tofu as well. So all good things to try. And lastly, not forgetting to add any leafy greens you want to put in your smoothie, or other healthy fats like avocados, which you can actually freeze as well. So they stay better longer. And small amounts of fruit to sweeten it up. I did also want to briefly touch on considering supplement safety. And again, you will be provided a handout on this as well. And there's also a handout on smoothies too that you'll be provided as well. But when it comes to supplement safety, I wanted to briefly touch on this because protein powders are actually classified as a dietary supplement. So the Food and Drug Administration is responsible for supplement regulation only after the product is marketed to consumers. So prior to being evaluated by the FDA, the regulation of supplements is left up to the manufacturers and distributors. And that is concerning since that's not much regulation there if it's the manufacturer and distributor that it's being left up to. So being aware of that, and particularly protein powders, since they do fall under that as a dietary supplement. And it's good to always remember that prior to starting a new supplement, speak to a registered dietitian, a doctor, or a pharmacist. Supplements can interact with medications, which is a huge reason why. So, and if they interact with your medications, that can actually cause potentially dangerous side effects. So we have to be very careful if we're on medications and want to introduce a new supplement, or if we're on many supplements, you want to be careful before, combining various supplements as well. So speak to a health professional who works with supplements. Also, when purchasing supplements, look for third-party verification and independent quality assessment seals. On the handout you'll be provided, you will see those seals, and I'll have more information on this. And one thing I wanted to briefly mention, for just giving an example, the USP stamp, which you might see on various supplements. That is a stamp that will be put on a product where that batch that is within in that bottle was actually third-party tested. If it doesn't have that stamp, then that batch was not tested. So understanding that, it is ideal to have some sort of stamp on there, because the safety, your product's been tested, so it has a higher level of safety and also effectiveness potentially too. And alternatively, consider the foods first that you can include in your diet to obtain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that you need, rather than just going to supplements. Food first is always a good approach. Next, I wanted to talk about some top picks for your fridge. So some of my favorites at Costco, any type of fresh beef, pork, poultry, fish, anything like that where it's just you see, you know, the just beef or just ground beef, anything like that. It's a whole food, minimally processed whole food. Definitely a good thing to have for your fridge, or you can always freeze it once you get home. I did list some meatballs and some of the processed meats, because, you know, once in a while having some sausage like the Amilu Organic Sugar House Maple Chicken Sausage or a Paleo Chicken Sausage or some smoked salmon, you know, having those things, you know, maybe just like a few times a week, not a big deal, and especially smaller amounts of it. And they're more convenient too, and they're quite tasty, or can be for certain people. So, you know, definitely put some of those in there. One of my favorites, the Suki's chicken coconut curry, is a nice, quick and easy meal you can heat up, or not meal, but chicken, and then you can add your own veggies to it, another side. So definitely some good things to check out in the refrigerator section. Eggs are another great one at Costco. We have the Kirkland Organic, or one of my favorites, the Wilcox Free Range Omega-3 eggs. Most of us don't get enough omega-3s in our diet. So if we can add some with the eggs that we're eating, that's great. Have some with your breakfast, that's perfect. House Foods Organic Tofu, another good one to keep in the fridge. If you like tofu, a good plant-based protein, definitely a good one. Sauces, dips, and condiments, that's probably my favorite thing. I love to dip my veggies in something or put it in my salad. And the organic hummus is a great one. The Good Foods chunky guacamole, or the Wally avocado, smashed avocado sea salt. That's a great one. It's just avocados and sea salt, and I think that's it actually in the ingredients. So that's a great one. Or some probiotics you can get. Occasionally I'll see the Wild Brine Raw Organic Sauerkraut. Again, if you like sauerkraut, great. And it has some good probiotics which are beneficial to the gut. Dairy, I put some grass-fed butter in there. Mozzarella string cheese. That's a nice on-the-go snack, or a snack at home that you can add to like a piece of fruit. So definitely a good thing to have. We have some more cheese in there, the milk, and Greek yogurt. They have big tubs of Greek yogurt at Costco, which are great, like I said, to add to smoothies, have with a breakfast with a little bit of fruit, maybe some chia seeds or hemp seeds. Definitely a good thing, or use as a sour cream. That's another great way to use Greek yogurt. And lastly, I for the refrigerated section, I didn't add too many beverages, but LaCroix was one, and Uber Greens is another one I found. Again, you know, there's a plethora of beverages at Costco. All in all, the water is the best thing we can all drink, but, you know, some sparkling water in there, maybe a green drink like the Uber Greens, of course, can be totally fine. So some top picks for your freezer. So I wanted to, of course, mention the vegetables, fruits, and even legumes that they have at Costco. My favorite thing is frozen vegetables. All frozen veggies, any that you can find in there, as long as there's no added sauces, definitely a good way to go. I've seen various ones like zucchini noodles, cauliflower rice, California blend, peas and corn, mixed veggies. I've seen green beans before, the broccoli, definitely tons, and they last in the freezer. And you can steam those, you can oven roast those, you can saute them. So again, great stuff, definitely you can have or choose from at Costco. Frozen fruit is another one. Some of the mixed berries I love. We make smoothies in my household in the morning with them. So definitely a great thing you can incorporate. Organic edamame, one of my favorites. It's a great plant-based protein to add. It boils in just a few minutes. And again, you can toss in a little sesame oil, some sea salt, great pick. Poultry and fish, you know, really any type of meat or fish that is just the meat or fish, not having a lot of preservatives and additives and things like that, can be perfectly fine. Some of my top picks are the organic chicken breast, And then, or the wild caught fish, like the wild Alaskan salmon and cod, great picks to have. And then some other products, those ones that are a little bit easier. If we run it, we don't have a lot of time, or we really don't feel like cooking at night. I put some pot stickers in there. One of our favorites in my household is the organic pot stickers with chicken and vegetable. I also have listed a black bean burger you can try, or perhaps a cauliflower crust pizza. It really tastes very similar to regular pizza. It just has a little cauliflower in it. Again, just something to try, maybe boost and add a little bit more veggies into your diet. So definitely a good thing. So I wanted to finish here with some final thoughts. So all in all, as you can see, there are a variety of healthful food products that are available at Costco. When choosing a product, always remember it's good to focus on the nutrition facts label and the ingredients list. So the nutrition facts label, like, if you're looking at fat, carbohydrates, maybe protein, fiber, but that ingredients list is really important. And if it has chicken, maybe some peas with it and some cheese, that's great. Things that we can understand mostly, like I said, unless of course it's fortified with vitamins and minerals. But the more we can understand typically the better. And it can be very, very helpful, or very healthful, I should say. Some things you may want to consider: what are the ingredients? Can I understand them for the most part? Are they sourced from whole food? How many ingredients are there? What are the main ingredients? And it's a fun fact that ingredients are listed in descending order in regards to the amount contained within the product. So if chicken is listed first, chicken is the primary ingredient. If the second ingredient is butter, butter is the next main ingredient. So it goes down in order. So that's a good thing to understand too when we read labels. And then how much sugar is added to the product. I typically, if sugar is listed in the top 5, you might want to consider avoiding it, depending on what your goal is. But, the less added sugars that we have in our diet, typically the better for pretty much everybody. What types of oils are in the product? We reviewed oils today, so think about that. How much salt has been added to the product? Typically less than 20% for the daily value. If you see 20% or less, or I should say less than 20%, that's a good starting point. But it depends on the serving size. So again, just, if we're watching salt, just be aware that the more whole foods, the better overall. But paying attention to that sodium amount is definitely a good idea for most people. What is the serving size? How much fiber does the product have? And more. There's so many different things you could be looking at, but what really matters is what matters to you. What are your goals? What are your health goals? And also, don't forget to visit the produce section at Costco, where you can find a variety of healthful products requiring little to no label reading. And those things would be, apples, tomatoes, salads, carrots, mushrooms, oranges. There's tons in the produce section. And most of us know what an apple, tomato, salad, carrots, what those things look like. So again, that's a great area to get some whole foods in and, make sure you're meeting your health goals as well. So lastly, I did want to say thank you for sitting through this webinar or watching this webinar. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found the information helpful and to be a useful source to use next time you go to Costco. And lastly, I just wanted to mention, feel free to come check out our website at www.sounddietitians.com. We, and particularly our blog, we have many nutrition-related topics that we cover there and recipes. So our blog might be a great resource for you as well. And I also wanted to thank our sponsors, Sponsors are Verdant Health Commission and Stille Valley Health Connection. So thank you both. And I hope all of you take care and have a great rest of your day.